He saved 2 lost alien sisters 15 years later. They returned to claim his heart. The wind howled through the broken metal of the old mining colony, carrying the dust of long-forgotten battles. Night had fallen on the barren world of Wrath 9, a place where even the stars seemed to avoid shining. Under the shattered roofs of collapsed buildings, only silence lived, broken now and then by the soft groan of steel cooling under the chill. In the distance, a lone human moved carefully through the ruins. His name was Eli Cross, a field engineer and scavenger. His boots crunched over the cracked ground, flashlight cutting through the haze like a blade. He had come here searching for scrap metal parts, maybe a working power core, anything to trade for food. Life on the border worlds was harsh, and kindness was a luxury most people couldn't afford. But tonight felt different. Something in the air felt alive. Every sound echoed too long. Every shadow seemed to move when he wasn't looking. Eli stopped near a half-buried cargo pod, listening. Then he heard it, a faint, trembling sound, almost like a whimper. He froze, scanning the darkness with his light. "Hello?" he called softly, voice echoing through the hollow structures. No answer came. Only another weak cry, like a small creature struggling to breathe. He followed the sound through the ruins until he reached the wreck of a transport shuttle. The hull was torn open, smoke stains along the edges old, maybe from the war 15 years ago. And there, under the broken wing, something moved. Eli crouched, lowering his light. 2 small shapes huddled close together, thin arms wrapped around each other. They looked like children. No, not human children. Their skin was pale blue, glowing faintly in the dark, and their eyes shimmered with faint golden rings. They were Gyran, a species most humans feared, the same race the government now called the enemy. Eli's first instinct was to back away. Helping them could mean death. Harboring enemy life was against the law. But when one of the girls lifted her head, his breath caught. She was trembling, lips dry, voice barely a whisper. "Please, food." He looked down at his satchel, the last ration bar inside, his only meal for the night. His stomach twisted in hunger, but then he saw their eyes again. No hatred, no danger, just desperation. Something inside him cracked. Eli knelt beside them, breaking the ration bar in 2. "Here," he said softly, handing each a piece. The smaller one hesitated, glancing at her sister, then reached out slowly. Her hands shook as she took the food. They ate like they hadn't eaten in days, tiny bites. Eyes half closed, trying not to cry, Eli watched silently. Feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in years, he smiled weakly. "You're safe now. At least for tonight." The older girl looked up, her voice hoarse. "Why? Why help us?" "Humans kill our kind," Eli sighed, sitting back against the cold metal wall. "Maybe some do," he said, "but not all." He pulled off his coat and wrapped it around them both. "You're just kids, and no child deserves to die hungry." They stared at him for a long moment, as if they couldn't believe what he said. Then the smaller one whispered something in her own language. The older nodded slowly. Together they looked at him, and the older one said softly, "We will repay you one day." "Human," Eli chuckled under his breath, shaking his head. "You don't owe me anything." "Little one," he said, "just live." That's enough. For a while, there was peace. The ruins were quiet, except for the soft hum of distant wind and the slow breathing of the 2 girls drifting into sleep. Eli leaned back, looking at the stars through the cracked ceiling. He thought of Earth, of the wars, of how humanity had forgotten what it meant to be kind. And yet here he was, feeding the enemy. Maybe that made him a fool, or maybe it made him human. But then, faintly in the distance, came the sound he dreaded most. Engines, military patrol drones, their red lights sweeping across the dark, Eli's heart pounded. He turned off his flashlight instantly and pressed himself against the ground. The girls stirred, frightened. "She," he whispered. "Don't move." The patrol lights passed over the ruins. Scanning for life signs, one beam came dangerously close, brushing across the edge of the wreck. Eli held his breath, feeling his pulse in his ears. If they found him here with the Jiren children, it would be over. He reached for his scanner, quickly masking their heat signatures under his own suit's reading. Seconds stretched into eternity. Finally, the sound of the drones faded into the distance. Eli exhaled shakily. He turned to the girls, both wide-eyed, clinging to each other. "It's okay," he whispered. "They're gone." The older one looked at him, tears in her glowing eyes. "Thank you," she said simply, her voice full of something deeper than words. He nodded, brushing the dust off his jacket. "Get some rest," he said quietly. The night wind softened, carrying the smell of burnt metal and dry earth. Eli sat beside them until their breathing slowed. For a moment, he felt something he hadn't in years. Peace. He didn't know then that this night would echo through time, that 2 starving alien girls he fed in a forgotten ruin would one day return to him as legends. He only knew one thing, that kindness, once given, never really dies. If you enjoy stories like this, full of humanity, mystery, and sci-fi emotion, please subscribe to HFY Sci. Your support keeps these stories alive, and as the moons of Wrath 9 rose above the broken city, Eli closed his eyes and whispered to the night, "Maybe tomorrow will be better." Morning arrived slowly on Wrath 9, washing the ruins in dull light. The cold metal shimmered faintly under the weak sunrise, and the storm had passed, leaving only silence behind. Eli Cross opened his eyes, still sitting against the wall. The 2 alien girls asleep beside him beneath his old coat. For a moment, he thought it was all a dream, until he saw their pale blue hands clutching the fabric tightly. He smiled faintly, whispering, "You made it through the night." But deep inside, fear was already crawling back into his chest. If the patrol drones had scanned deeper, they might have marked the heat traces. If soldiers came again today, he wouldn't be able to hide them. The human government didn't show mercy to sympathizers, especially those caught helping Jirens. The girls stirred, blinking at the sunlight. The older one, taller, though still young, looked around nervously. "Is it safe?" she asked, her accent rough but understandable. Eli shook his head. "Not for long," he said quietly. "We have to move before the next patrol." He helped them stand, but they were weak legs trembling, eyes unfocused from hunger and exhaustion. He led them through a maze of debris and broken corridors, moving toward the old tunnel systems beneath the colony. Once, these tunnels carried miners and transport pods. Now they were nothing but shadows and echoes. Still, they offered one thing the surface didn't shelter. As they walked, the smaller sister kept glancing up at Eli, her voice small and shy. "Why do humans hunt us?" she asked. Eli hesitated, the question cutting deeper than he expected. "Because," he said softly, "people fear what they don't understand." The girl frowned, confused. "But you didn't fear us." Eli smiled sadly. "Maybe I should have," he said, "but I couldn't." They reached a junction deep underground, where the air smelled of rust and dust. Eli handed them both small water capsules from his suit bag. The older sister took it with shaking hands. "We can hide here?" "For a while," Eli replied, checking his wrist scanner. "But not forever." He crouched beside them. "If you want to survive," he said, "head east through the tunnels. There's an old transport shaft leading to the outer ridge. The soldiers don't search there anymore," he added. The older girl looked at him, uncertain. "You? Not come with us?" Eli hesitated, looking toward the tunnel's dark mouth. He wanted to go, to protect them. But he knew the truth. If he vanished now, the outpost would hunt him down. He had a life to lose. They didn't. "I can't," he said quietly. "They'll track me. But you can still get out." The smaller sister's eyes welled with tears. "But we don't know the way." Eli reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny beacon. He pressed it into the older one's hand. "This will light your path for a while," he said. "Follow the red cliffs till you find a tower with a broken signal dish. There'll be food caches there. Left from the old war." They stared at him as if memorizing his face. The older one whispered, "We will see you again." Eli cross. Eli smiled weakly. "I hope not, because if you do, it means you didn't make it out of this mess." But the girl only shook her head, a strange light in her eyes. "No," she said softly. "We will return when we are strong." Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the silence. Engines. Closed this time. Eli froze, glancing up through the cracks in the tunnel ceiling. A beam of light flickered across the far wall. "Go!" he hissed, pushing them toward the eastern shaft. "Don't stop, don't look back." The girls hesitated for a second, then turned and ran, their bare feet echoing faintly through the tunnels. Eli watched until their figures vanished into the dark. Then he pulled out a small data chip from his pocket and crushed it under his boot, erasing every trace of their presence. Within minutes, the soldiers arrived. "Engineer Cross," their commander barked. "We tracked unauthorized life signals here last night. Explain." Eli stood calmly, hands raised. "Just a heat surge from the old reactors," he lied. His voice didn't tremble, but his heart pounded like thunder. The soldiers scanned the area, sweeping beams flashing across his face. One looked suspicious, but found nothing finally. The commander spat on the ground. Waste of time. "Move out." They left, their boots thudding against metal, leaving Eli alone in the hollow silence once more. He sank to the floor, staring into the dark tunnel where the girls had vanished. He told himself he'd done the right thing, saved them, even if it meant never seeing them again. But deep inside, something felt heavy. The image of their glowing eyes burned behind his own. Two fragile sparks of life, wandering into a galaxy that hated them. Eli whispered to the emptiness, "Stay alive." "Little ones," the echo came back like a ghost. And then nothing but silence. He didn't know that miles away, under the dying light of Rath-9's sun, the two alien sisters were already whispering his name like a promise that would one day bring them back to him, not as children, but as warriors. 15 years had passed since that night in the ruins. The war between humans and the Jiren Empire had come and gone, leaving behind broken planets and quiet graves. On the edge of known space, in a forgotten repair outpost orbiting a cold red moon, Eli Cross still worked alone. His hands were rough, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes still carried the same quiet fire. He spent his days fixing ships that no one else wanted to touch. Wrecks, pirate craft, forgotten freighters drifting from wars no one remembered anymore. To most, he was just a mechanic, a nobody. But every night, when the lights dimmed and the engines hummed softly, he still thought about them. The two alien sisters, the glowing eyes, the small trembling hands taking the last of his food. He sometimes wondered if they ever survived, if his one act of kindness had mattered at all. Outside, the cold void shimmered as a fleet of ships moved across the horizon. At first, Eli thought it was just another patrol convoy. But then he saw the markings, the black and silver insignia of the Jiren Dominion. His breath caught. No one had seen Jiren ships in this region for years. Why here? Why now? The alarm lights flickered red across the bay. Unidentified vessel approaching. The intercom shouted. Dock crews scrambled, taking defensive positions. Eli grabbed his wrench and moved toward the viewing window. And then he saw it, a massive warship descending like a silent predator through the clouds of the moon. Its hull was black glass, its engines humming like a distant storm. The ground trembled as it landed, metal grinding against the station platform. The soldiers around Eli whispered nervously, "Gyrans." "Here? What do they want?" Eli said nothing, his gaze locked on the lowering ramp. When the ramp touched the ground, two figures emerged, both tall, armored in silver combat suits that reflected the crimson light of the moon. Their movements were graceful, controlled like dancers trained in the art of war. Even before they removed their helmets, the air around them felt charged, and when they did, Eli froze. The world seemed to stop breathing. It was them. The same eyes' golden rings glowing like fire behind glass. The same faint blue skin, though now hardened by battle and time. Their faces were older, sharper, their expressions unreadable, but he knew them instantly. The lost alien girls he had fed in the ruins, now standing as commanders of a warship. His throat tightened. Around him, humans raised their weapons. The station commander barked, "Identify yourselves." But the taller of the two stepped forward and spoke, her voice calm yet commanding. "I am Captain Lyra of the Gyran Dominion, and this is Commander Sira. We seek one human by name." She paused, her golden eyes finding him through the crowd. Eli Cross. Gasps filled the room. Eli felt his heart pound, unsure if he should speak or run. I'm here," he said quietly, stepping forward. The two sisters walked toward him slowly, each step echoing like thunder in the silent hangar. When they stopped in front of him, Lyra removed a small metal pendant from her armor, a simple piece of twisted steel. Old and rusted, it was the broken beacon he had given them 15 years ago. Sira smiled faintly. "We kept it," she said. Her voice softer now. Eli stared at them, his mind struggling to understand. "You?" "Survived," he whispered. "We did more than survive," Lyra replied. "We conquered, we fought, we built a world where no child would starve again." She stepped closer, lowering her head slightly. "And we never forgot you." Before he could speak, the commander of the outpost shouted, "Step back, all of you. These are enemy officers." Soldiers raised rifles, red lasers painting the air. The twins turned their gaze toward them, no anger, only quiet warning. Lyra's voice was calm, but every word held weight. "We are not here for war," she said. "We are here for him." The room fell silent again. "For me?" Eli asked, confused. Sira nodded. "In our culture, one who gives life becomes bondmate, the one to whom a soul is eternally tied." Her eyes glowed brighter. 15 years ago, you fed us, protected us, and gave us hope when no one else did." She took a slow breath, her voice trembling slightly. "Now, we have returned to claim what was promised." Eli's mouth went dry. All eyes turned toward him. He could hear the whispers of disbelief from the soldiers, shock, disgust, confusion. Two alien commanders claiming a human mechanic as their sacred bondmate. The commander shouted, "This is absurd. Human law forbids such contact." Lyra turned her eyes toward him, cold and sharp. "Then let your law challenge destiny," she said. The lights flickered, the tension thick as smoke. Eli looked at the two warriors before him and realized the truth. The children he once saved were no longer helpless. They had returned as legends, and now they had come for him. But he also knew nothing about this meeting would end peacefully. The past was coming back, and it carried fire. The hangar was silent, so silent that Eli could hear the hum of the ship's engines in his bones. Dozens of soldiers stood frozen, unsure whether to lower their guns or fire. The Gyran twins, Lyra and Sira, stood tall and calm, their silver armor gleaming under the harsh station lights. Every movement they made felt deliberate, elegant, yet deadly. And between them stood Eli Cross, the only human in the galaxy they had come for. The commander of the outpost broke the silence. "This man belongs to the Terran Union," he barked. "No alien has the right to claim him." Lyra's golden eyes shifted toward the man like fire catching dry leaves. She didn't move, but something in the air changed heavy. Electric. Sira spoke softly. Yet her voice carried across the hangar. 15 years ago. Your Union left us to die." Her words were calm, but her tone made the soldiers lower their rifles without realizing it. Eli looked at the two of them, his chest tight. "Why now?" he whispered. "After all this time?" Lyra turned to him, her expression softening. "Because we found you again," she said. "And because the promise we made must be fulfilled." Eli shook his head, still trying to process it all. "I didn't do anything special," he said quietly. "You were just children who needed food." Sira stepped closer, her eyes locking with his. "To us. That moment was everything," she said, "when everyone saw us as enemies. You saw us as alive." Her voice trembled slightly. "You gave us more than food. Eli, you gave us reason to fight. To believe that mercy could exist in this universe." He wanted to answer, to tell them they owed him nothing, but before he could speak, the commander slammed his hand on the console. "That's enough," he roared. "Guards, take this man into custody now." The soldiers hesitated, torn between fear and duty. One took a step forward. In a blink, Lyra's hand went to her hip, her plasma blade ignited with a hiss, its edge glowing blue against the steel walls. Every soldier froze again. "Touch him," Lyra said, her voice suddenly sharp and cold, "and I will end you before you can blink." No one moved. The tension was so thick that even the hum of the engines seemed to fade away. Eli raised a hand slowly, stepping toward her. "Lyra, please," he said softly. "You don't have to do this." Her eyes flickered, the edge of anger fading into something deeper, pain. Maybe fear. She lowered the blade slightly, but didn't turn it off. Sira took a slow step toward Eli, placing a metal pendant in his hand. It was the same symbol engraved on their armor, 2 stars circling one another, connected by a thread of light. "It's the mark of bondmates," she whispered. "One life shared through 2 souls." Eli looked down at the pendant, his hand trembling. "I'm just a mechanic," he said quietly. "You're warriors, commanders, you lead fleets. Why would you come for me?" Lyra answered with a quiet strength. "Because the galaxy we built means nothing without the one who taught us compassion." Her eyes softened. "We fought so long to protect others, but every battle we won. We remembered your voice in the ruins. 'Just live,' you said." She smiled faintly. "We lived, Eli Cross, and we came back to bring that life back to you." Before Eli could speak again, alarms blared through the hangar. The commander shouted, "Jiren reinforcements inbound. They've locked targeting arrays on us." Panic erupted, sirens wailed, lights flashed red, and the ground trembled under the force of approaching ships. Sira's eyes narrowed. "We came alone," she said. "They're not ours." Eli's stomach sank. A third faction, pirates or bounty hunters, must have intercepted the signal. Now chaos was coming for all of them. "Everyone take cover." The commander yelled. The twins grabbed Eli by the arms and pulled him toward the warship. "What are you doing?" He shouted over the noise. "Protecting what's ours," Lyra said firmly. "We will not lose you again." Explosions rocked the bay as the first blast hit the platform. Smoke and fire filled the air, the roar deafening. Eli coughed, vision blurred, and through the haze, he saw the twins fighting, moving like shadows made of light. Their blades danced in perfect rhythm, cutting through falling debris and enemy drones with deadly grace. They weren't just soldiers. They were legends made flesh, as they reached the ship's ramp. Lyra turned, extending her hand to him. "Eli," she called, her voice breaking through the chaos. "Come with us now." He hesitated, caught between two worlds, the one he knew, and the one that had come for him, but in her eyes he saw something that made his heart stop. It wasn't command or duty, it was hope. The same fragile hope he had once seen in the eyes of two starving girls beneath a ruined sky. He reached for her hand, and the moment he did, the hangar behind him exploded into flame. The past he'd lived burned away in that instant, and the future, while uncertain and full of danger, began the moment he took her hand. The blast tore through the hangar like thunder. Metal screamed, fire bloomed, and the floor cracked beneath the shockwave. Eli stumbled forward, blinded by smoke, his ears ringing from the explosion. Somewhere behind him, the commander was shouting orders. But the words were swallowed by chaos. Lyra's grip tightened on his wrist as she pulled him through the flames. Her armor scorched and glowing, yet she moved as if pain couldn't touch her. Sira followed close behind, plasma blade in hand, slicing through collapsing beams as if they were paper. They dragged Eli toward the warship's open hatch. Outside, the sky burned red, and the sound of distant engines grew louder. A fleet was descending. Inside the ship, alarms blared. Gyran soldiers rushed to battle stations. Their voices sharp and focused. Eli could barely stand, coughing against the smoke that clung to his throat. "What's happening?" he asked, breathless. Lyra turned to him, eyes blazing gold through her cracked visor. "Someone followed us here," she said. "A bounty faction. They've been hunting us for months." Sira's tone was colder. "They must have intercepted our signal when we found you." Eli tried to steady himself. "So now I'm the reason they're here," he muttered bitterly. Lyra shook her head. "You are not the reason. You are the purpose." Her voice softened, almost breaking. "We didn't come this far to lose you again." The ship lifted from the ground with a deep, trembling roar. Through the viewport, the outpost below looked like a dying ember, explosions lighting the surface like a funeral pyre. Human and Gyran forces fired into the sky. Not even sure who they were shooting at anymore. It was Madness War reborn in seconds. Eli gripped the edge of the console as the ship jolted from a near miss. He turned to the twins, both working in unison. Guiding the vessel through enemy fire, they moved like one mind split between two bodies' silent communication. Mirrored reflexes, Lyra's voice broke through the noise. "Hold on, we're breaching atmosphere." The ship shot upward, piercing the cloud layers in a blaze of heat and light. When they finally reached orbit, Eli collapsed into a seat, exhausted and shaking. The silence after the chaos felt unreal. He could still feel the heat of the flames, smell the burnt metal, hear the screams echoing in his head. Lyra stood before him, her armor cracked, her expression unreadable. Sira knelt beside him, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're safe now," she said quietly. "We have you." Eli looked up at her, his voice rough. "Safe?" He repeated. "You've just made me the most wanted man in the Union." He laughed bitterly. "They'll hunt me for this, for being taken by you." Lyra's gaze hardened. "Then let them hunt," she said. "They will find only fire." Her words sent a chill through him, not from fear, but from the certainty in her tone. They weren't bluffing. They would burn galaxies if it meant protecting him. Eli stood slowly, meeting her eyes. "Why?" he asked again. "Why risk everything for me?" Sira rose beside her sister, her voice softer than Lyra's, but just as firm. "Because 15 years ago, you risked everything for us," she said. "You gave without hope of return, and that act shaped who we became." Lyra added quietly. "We learned mercy from you, Eli Cross, and we built our strength upon it." He looked at them both, torn between awe and fear. To be remembered was one thing, but to be worshipped as something sacred? That frightened him. "I'm not what you think," he said, voice low. "I'm no savior. I'm just a man who couldn't watch children die." Lyra smiled faintly. "That is exactly why you are who we believe you to be." The lights flickered, drawing their attention to the main screen. A red alert multiple ships approaching from hyperspace. Syrah's eyes narrowed. Union interceptors. "They followed us." Lyra turned to Eli, her voice sharp now. "They will demand we surrender you. They will call you a traitor for standing beside us." Eli's heart pounded. "So? What are you going to do?" he asked quietly. The sisters exchanged a long look. Then Lyra spoke, her tone like steel wrapped in fire. "We're not going to surrender." Syrah took his hand gently, her voice trembling as she added, "We came to claim you. But the truth is, we came to save you too." Eli looked out the viewport. At the stars turning red with enemy fire, he had a choice to make now: stay with humanity, the people who had abandoned compassion long ago, or go with the two beings who had built their entire destiny on one moment of kindness. The alarms wailed again, and the ship shuddered as the first salvo hit their shields. Lyra's hand reached for his. "Decide, Eli," she said, her eyes burning gold. "Where does your soul belong? Outside, the stars flared like dying suns inside." 3 lives stood on the edge of fate, and as the next blast rocked the ship, Eli finally knew whatever choice he made tonight, there would be no going back. The ship shook again as plasma rounds exploded against the shields. The red light of the alarms flashed across Eli's face as he clutched the railing. He could feel every vibration in his bones, every shudder of metal that held them between life and death. Outside the viewport, the darkness of space burned with light streaks of fire and silver ships closing in fast. Lyra barked an order, her voice calm but fierce. "Full thrusters divert power from weapons to the core shields." Syrah's fingers danced over the control panels, her movements fast and precise. "Done," she said, "but we can't hold long." "Their aim is locking." Eli turned toward them, his heart racing. "There has to be another way out," he said. "If we stay, they'll surround us." Lyra's golden eyes flickered toward him, sharp but steady. "There is another way," she said. "But it's dangerous." Before Eli could ask, the ship jolted violently. A missile struck their rear thruster. Throwing him off balance, he hit the deck hard, pain shooting through his arm. Syrah rushed to him, helping him back up. "You're hurt," she said softly. He shook his head. "I'm fine. Just tell me what to do." Lyra's voice came from the cockpit. "Brace yourselves. We're diving into the rift belt." Eli blinked, shocked. "The rift? That's suicide. No one flies through that." Lyra's lips curved in a grim smile. "Then they won't follow." The rift belt was a graveyard of broken ships and electric storms that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Old war debris drifted like ghosts, torn apart by gravitational rifts and lightning arcs. No human ship dared enter it. Most never came back. But Lyra and Syrah seemed to know every pulse of danger, every current of chaos, as the ship plunged into the glowing haze. The stars outside vanished, replaced by swirling blue storms that lit the cockpit in flashes of light. Static filled the air. The controls flickered, gravity wavered. Eli gripped the console as the ship lurched sideways. "We'll tear apart," he shouted. "Not if we keep to the shadow currents," Syrah replied, voice steady despite the chaos. The engines roared as Lyra guided them between drifting hulks of ancient vessels. One wrong move, one mistimed thrust, and they'd be crushed between floating debris or swallowed by the rift's magnetic waves. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the sensors went dark. No more pursuit signals. No Union ships, only silence. They had escaped. The engines powered down slowly, and the red lights faded to soft blue. The ship floated gently amid the wrecks of forgotten wars outside. Lightning rolled across the rift like veins of living fire. Eli collapsed into a seat. Breathing hard, Lyra turned in her chair, removing her cracked helmet, her face streaked with sweat and smoke. "We're safe. For now," she said quietly. Sira stood beside her, watching Eli closely. He looked back at them both, still shaken. "You two just risked your lives and mine to come here," he said. "Why? What do you really want from me?" The twins exchanged a look in unspoken conversation passing between them. Then Lyra stepped forward, her voice soft now. "There's something you must know. Eli," she said, "when you gave us food that night, you didn't just save 2 children," Sira continued, her golden eyes glowing faintly. "You saved the last heirs of the Jiren royal bloodline." Eli froze, his mind struggling to process the words. "Royal bloodline?" he repeated. Lyra nodded. "Our people were slaughtered when the Empire fell. We were smuggled off-world to hide our lineage. But the ship crashed on Wrath 9. Her tone hardened. "You found us in those ruins. And because of you, we lived." Sira placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice trembling. "The Jiren people believe the royal blood must bond with a heart of mercy, not power." Her eyes softened. "That's why we returned to fulfill the prophecy of the bond." Eli's throat went dry. "I'm no prince," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm a mechanic, a scavenger." Lyra smiled faintly, a look of deep sadness in her eyes. "To us, you are the human who saw life in the enemy, the one who gave the Empire its second chance." Her voice lowered to a whisper. "You are the bridge between 2 worlds that were never meant to meet." Eli stared at them. Speechless, the air inside the ship felt heavy, filled with meaning and silence. For 15 years, he had thought his small act of kindness was forgotten, lost to time, but now he realized it had shaped an entire future. Outside, the rift storm began to fade, the lightning turning into slow rivers of light, and through the cracked viewport, a faint glow appeared, a planet hidden in the storm's shadow, covered in silver clouds and blue oceans. Sira smiled as she saw it. "Our world," she said softly. "The last sanctuary of Jireh." Lyra looked at Eli, her eyes shining like twin suns. "And you?" "Eli Cross," she whispered, "are the one we bring home?" The ship turned slowly toward the planet, its engines humming quietly. In the silence, Eli watched the glowing world draw closer, and deep in his heart, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. A pull, gentle but unstoppable, as if fate itself had reached out its hand and whispered, "This is where you were always meant to go." The rift storms faded behind them. The blackness of space stretched ahead. Calm and deep, Eli Cross stood by the viewport, watching the planet grow larger, its oceans glowing silver blue beneath a shroud of mist. It looked peaceful, untouched by war, but he knew better. Nothing in this galaxy remained untouched for long. Lyra joined him silently, her armor scarred and faintly smoking. "This world," she said softly, "was once the heart of Jireh. Before it was lost to history." Eli turned to her, his expression heavy. "You rebuilt all this? After the war?" She nodded, a flicker of pride in her eyes. "We rebuilt everything, from ashes and fear, guided by one promise." Her gaze met his. "Your promise." Eli looked away, guilt flickering across his face. "I never promised anything," he said quietly. "I only gave you food." Sira approached from behind, her voice like a whisper through the hum of the engines. "And that was enough," she said. "In a universe full of cruelty, you gave us kindness. That is how empires are reborn." The ship entered the planet's atmosphere. Blue light flooded the cockpit as clouds parted to reveal sprawling crystalline cities that shimmered beneath twin suns. Eli's breath caught. The architecture was alive organic towers that pulsed faintly like veins of light. Flying vessels soared gracefully between them, and the surface glittered with rivers that shone like molten glass. It didn't look like a city built for war. It looked like hope given form as they descended. Thousands of Gyran soldiers gathered below the landing platform. Their armor gleamed in perfect formation, their banners fluttering in the wind. When the ship's ramp lowered, a hush spread across the crowd. Lyra and Sira stepped forward, flanking Eli as if guarding a sacred relic. Every Gyran kneeled. Eli froze, staring in disbelief. What? What are they doing? He whispered. They are welcoming you, Sira said softly. Welcoming me. He repeated, I'm human. To them, I'm the enemy. Lyra turned toward him, her expression calm but fierce. No, to them. You are the one who united light and shadow. She gestured to the crowd. They have been told of the human who showed mercy when the stars went dark. To them, you are not human or alien. You are the bridge between what we were and what we can become. Eli felt the weight of it pressing against his heart. He wanted to argue, to deny it, but the sight before him silenced everything inside. Thousands bowed not in fear, but in reverence, and among them, children smiled. Small blue faces filled with wonder instead of hatred. He realized, for the first time, what his kindness had truly done. Then the sky darkened. The warning sirens echoed through the city. A Union fleet had followed them through the rift, massive warships emerging like dark shadows against the twin suns. Eli's breath caught. They found us, he said. Lyra's hand tightened around her blade. Let them come, she said. But Eli stepped in front of her, shaking his head. No, this war will not start again, not because of me. The twins stared at him in shock. He walked to the edge of the platform. Where the wind roared and the light burned his eyes, he raised his voice, speaking into the comms that connected every ship above. This is Eli Cross of the Terran Union, he said, and I am standing on Gyra, the world you once called your enemy. He paused, his voice steady, though his heart pounded like thunder. 15 years ago, I gave food to 2 starving alien girls, and today, I stand beside them as sisters of a new dawn. His words echoed across frequencies, across soldiers and ships and worlds. If mercy can survive war, then peace can be born from it. The silence that followed stretched endlessly. No shots fired, no commands given, just quiet, heavy and alive. Then, slowly, the lead Terran ship powered down its weapons. One by one, the others followed, their engines dimming, their lights fading from red to blue. Eli exhaled, his knees weak with relief. Behind him, Sira placed her hand on his shoulder. You changed them, she whispered. Eli smiled faintly, tears in his eyes. No, he said softly. We changed each other. As the suns broke through the clouds again, painting the city in gold, the crowd below rose to their feet. The war was over not through victory, but through understanding. And in that moment, humanity and Gyra shared the same light for the first time in history. Lyra turned to Eli, her eyes glowing with quiet joy. Our bond is complete, she said. Eli nodded, looking out over the endless horizon. Then let's build something worthy of it, he whispered. The wind swept across the platform, carrying the sound of distant cheers and rising hope. And as the dawn spread over Gyra, Eli Cross finally understood. Sometimes, a single act of kindness can ignite an entire civilization. And sometimes, it can change the fate of 2 worlds.